the Warriors won last night purely on experience and the fact that the Rockets don't have a clutch star that can, seal the game in the fourth quarter. They've struggled throughout this series in tight fourth quarter games. The only games they've really won have been, you know, basically games where they've led the entire time. Um, you know, the score in this game was closer than, or the score was farther away than you would think. This game was actually much closer um, in terms of you know competition. Um, the Rockets were face guarding Steph Curry the entire game, basically taking him out of the play. Um, Sometimes they would guard him with two players off the ball. I mean, I've never seen this before. Face guarding a guy with two players. Basically, Steph Curry would just sit at half court and let the Warriors go 4-3 because there wasn't a chance for him to get into the play, you know, and it really, it worked throughout most of the game. Um, Nobody would have expected Buddy Hield to go off for 9 threes or whatever he made in this game. So, like, you know, had Buddy Hield not had that, I think the Rockets would have had a big lead heading into the fourth quarter and maybe would have won this game. Um, you know, Buddy Hield, I mean, if you're gonna have a moment, why not pick game seven? Um, but just like the way they were guarding Steph, just fouling him, they weren't calling that stuff off the ball. They were just letting him play, but like basically Steph would be standing on the logo and he'd have two guys um just not even paying attention to the play, just looking at him and moving. If he tries to go, they would go with him. It's sort of like if you ever play the game like capture the flag and you have a guy, in the box with the flag, you surround the circle, and if he tries to go, you move that way so he can't escape. It was basically like that. I mean, Steph could not move or try and even get into the play for most of the first 3 quarters. Um, but down the stretch, obviously Curry being one of the greatest to ever do it, the greatest shooter ever, he finds a way to get involved and basically does what a star does. He seals the win. You know, he found ways to get to the basket when he was being doubled from behind the arc. A lot of he'd get rid of the ball and then he'd get the ball back, and that would get the Rockets defense in rotation, and then he was able to get to the rim. Had some just unbelievable athletic plays where he would basically go up, realize he couldn't get the shot off, he'd go back under and lay it in reverse with some English on the ball. It was crazy to watch what he was doing down the stretch. Um, this is not a bad season for the Rockets. Yes, they were the second seed, but you made huge improvements from previous seasons. You're missing that one offensive player that can, finish a game off for you because, a closer by committee just doesn't work in this day and age. Um, Jalen Green threw up four duds in a row in these playoffs after being really their best offensive player for most of the season. Right, he averaged like 35 the first game, and then he went for like 7, 8, 5, and 7 again, and not that particular order. Um, just like the inconsistency. Yes, I think right. He's a young player. He's gonna get better, but that's what really cost him because Fred VanVleet and Alfred Sengun had great seasons or great playoffs, but they just were missing that one other guy that could really be a star down the stretch. Um, you know, they might have to think about moving on from them. I don't know. I would think, if they can go out and get a guy like Giannis or someone else, maybe they do that. I would have to think that they would try and stay with Amen Thompson. Just his defense. He and his brother just freaky athletic, and they were both came into the season as not great offensive players, but they as the season progressed, they got much better on offense, and in these playoffs, both of them were scoring at a decent clip. They were able to not be basically liabilities out there on the offensive end. They had to be guarded. Yes, they're not great 3-point shooters, but they can get to the rim. They can dunk on people. They were just both fun to watch. So like I would think the Rockets would stay with him, just because he provides great defense, and then maybe you move on from other guys like Dylan Brooks, other guys if you can get a big trade for like a Giannis or someone else.